I'm Jenni Carlson here with Ryan Aber. We're in Dallas where the Red River rivalry, well, it was as wacky as we thought it might be in a year of pandemic.
I didn't think it was wacky, Jenni.
I think it might have been. Oklahoma wins 53-45, not as wacky as I said, 4 overtimes. Ryan, so much to talk about, but let's start with the defense because it looked like a game that Oklahoma might win with defense. Then they give up the fourth quarter. Talk us through the defensive roller coaster today.
Well, it was pretty incredible. And, I think it's the 45 points that you see Texas scored is a little bit misleading because even some of the early points that Texas put on the board were caused by offensive turnovers that the defense was put in a really bad position on. But once again, in the fourth quarter, OU's defense really struggled. Really just the last 5 minutes there as Texas had a couple of quick touchdown drives. There after Oklahoma's offense couldn't move the ball and get a first down at all. If OU's offense gets one first down there in either their 2 drives in the end of regulation, the game's probably over. They weren't able to do that. Sam Ehlinger was fantastic, especially with his feet. I think it was 90 yards rushing, either 90 or 91 in the last 2 drives of regulation and the overtimes. But then really couldn't find anything to work in overtimes. And then in the third overtime, they finally were able to get the Longhorns on 3rd down, make a play. Nick Benito sort of spying on Sam Ehlinger was able to hit a gap and get back in the backfield, make the play, force the field goal try. Perry on Winfrey. David Agwebu had the block earlier. Perry on Winfrey gets the block. And then Trey Brown, who has become, big game Trey, with those late defensive plays, especially I'm talking about 2018 Bedlam, 2018 Big 12 title game against Texas where he sacked Sam Ehlinger for a safety, dives in front of Joshua Moore to intercept Sam Ehlinger. And in this game, finally, after almost an hour of overtimes.
By the way, it's easy to forget some specific details because this game almost went 5 hours. It felt like we were here for a really long time because we were. But, the defense played great when they had to in overtime. Definitely found ways to make things happen. But you mentioned the fact that Texas early, some of their success was a factor in the OU offense turning the ball over, and it was Spencer Rattler doing it. He gets benched, Ryan, again in a year of weird and wacky. The starter gets benched, and he came back and played a lot better. But that was unexpected too.
Yeah, it really was. And Rattler made a really poor decision on it. His interception just seemed like he couldn't see the linebacker right in the middle of the field and threw it right into his chest. And then on a fumble, they called it a fumble. It could have been called an interception. He was sacked on 3rd down. You just got to put the ball away, take your sack, punt the ball, and give your defense a chance. Instead, he sort of winds up flipping it sort of up in the air right into a Texas defender's hands. And after that, he did come off the field shaking his arm. He said it was a problem after the game, but there was no doubt about it. This was a benching.
Yeah.
There was a message sent. Tanner Mordecai came in, played the rest of the half. But really after that, until those last 2 drives there at the end of regulation, Spencer Rattler played a whole lot better. Of course, it's easy to play a whole lot better when you're able to move the ball on the ground. And OU's offensive line had their best game of the season. I don't think it was even close to their best game of the season. And TJ Pledger was fantastic. TJ Pledger, we've seen a lot from him over these last couple of weeks. I thought against Iowa State, when they were able to get the ball to him in space, he showed that he can be a special type of player. He showed that again today. Had the fumble, which was not a good sign at all, but ran for a career-high yardage and helped them put them in a really good position. He wasn't around much in overtime. I think he was a little bit banged up, but a great sign for TJ Pledger. And this was a big opportunity for him because Seth McGowan was out with an injury today.
Yeah, you mentioned the offensive line having a great game. Ryan, I thought for all the ups and downs and the swings and the momentum and a game that never seems to disappoint, even when the teams come in with not so good records, having their struggles, what were some of those areas that you think really stood out for Oklahoma, that they played maybe even better than expected and made a difference in this game?
Well, the offensive line is one, as we talked about. They blocked a whole lot better. Still wasn't perfect, But for instance, Eric Swinson has really struggled at left tackle, played serviceably today. I thought that was a big step up from them in the past. And the guards played a whole lot better. The guards have really struggled. And then on the defensive side, you saw Alex Grinch make some changes, tinker a little bit. And you saw some young guys make plays, and the defense finally come up with some turnovers. I mean, Woody Washington, that interception at the time was massive, and it looked like, again, I go back to this from earlier, but all you needed was one first down there after Woody Washington's interception, and you probably put the game away. They weren't able to do it. But Washington came up huge. Perrion Winfrey, who we've talked about the importance of him leading all into this year, there in the middle of the defensive line. He came up big, not only defensively, but the block punt there in the third overtime, and on and on and on. And also, I thought for a big chunk of the game, penalties were so big early. I wrote about this in Saturday's Oklahoman. Penalties have killed the Sooners this year. And you figured they could make a big difference in this game. OU gets 6 penalties for 65 yards in the first, about 20 minutes of the game. And then they didn't have any other penalties until late in regulation, and those sort of cost them there. But they were able to avoid those there in the third and fourth overtimes. And Texas shot itself in the foot with a big holding call, and OU was able to take advantage.
All right, if you need to catch your breath, you're in luck.
That was a lot.
Sooners are off next week, so you can digest this one. You can, check your heart meds, whatever you need to do, Sooner fans. But this was a classic in a lot of ways, and I don't know if we're going to forget it for a while, but it was an interesting game today at the Cotton Bowl. We'll continue our coverage in the off week and obviously getting ready for future Big 12 games, so be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at oklahoman.com and every day.